wrapped around your soul with no control.
I have to give a shout out to my real employer who is sponsoring tonight's episode, so I don't get in trouble. And that is a quick thank you to Ring Central for sponsoring the Lately in PHP podcast. If you're not familiar with Ring Central offers full cloud communication. So we're talking message, video, phone in the cloud. And they have a bunch of APIs that allow you to connect and build your own applications on top of their Ring Central MVP platform. So definitely check them out at ringcentral.com and the developer platform at developers.ringcentral.com.
And what we have today is PHP 8. I have to admit, I have not shifted that to PHP 8 because every new version, there are new features, but there are new bugs. Okay, so I don't tend to jump on the latest version precisely to give the core developers time to get it stable. But if you are brave, I'm admitting I'm not brave, but if you are brave, you can go ahead and tell us how it works. Because the people that go ahead, they can share their feedback and tell, oh, this is not working, this is working well, this needs to be fixed. So everybody is important in whatever version of PHP they are using. I have been shifting to the latest versions of PHP and still not in the latest PHP 7 version because the latest has a few issues. And every time I need to upgrade and figure the issues, it's a lot of code that I need to test. And it spends a lot of time. And there's always a chance that something escaped me and I could not figure what it was. And I only realized later when somebody's telling, your site sucks because it's not working here. Oh, really? Oh, I want to check. Oh, it's the latest PHP version. He doesn't care. He just cares that the part of the site that he wanted to use does not work. And I always
really quickly, I'm going to share my take on that because when my site doesn't work, it's usually because of my code. So I got on that. You brought up a really great point about PHP 8. PHP 8 is new, and one of the things I want to give credit to the core contributors is how much work goes into that. And we've seen, back from the days of PHP, 3 to 4, the changes in PHP. But I don't want people to be hesitant to upgrade to PHP 8. Well, a lot of people don't realize, and I was behind the curve on this myself. PHP 7 actually has end of life. So like 7.2, I believe it is end of life. So having that chance to upgrade to the latest either 7 version to avoid security issues, or the latest stable 8 version, because there are going to be unstable versions, there's development versions. But to Manuel's point, one of the challenges you have is there are some backwards incompatible things. There are some ways that things operate differently. And when you make that transition, it doesn't always work, but I'm not saying you have to be on the absolute latest version. I think, Manuel, you have the best advice there, which is, it's always not a bad idea to be a version or two, especially a minor version or two behind to let the bugs get worked out, unless there's security issues, in which case, obviously, those vulnerabilities may take precedent. But I don't think we have time to talk today, but there's so much that's exciting about PHP 8 and what the core team is doing. And we talk about the silent developers, there's so many people on there, and give a shout out to Sammy Kay and Sarah Goldman and many more that we don't have time to name. Like they're really the true heroes behind the scenes making this happen. But Manuel, going back really quickly, and we talk about the true heroes who work in the background. I've been working with PHP since probably 2000. Maybe not quite 2000, maybe about 20 years now. And my understanding is PHP classes exceeds that. So how old is PHP classes? And I have to ask, how did you get started with that? And how did you come up with the idea to build PHP classes? And then what have you seen really change over the last 20 years? I mean, that's 2 decades. I can't even fathom that right now.
Yes, well, that's a lot of things to talk about. Well, first, the site was started because I wanted to share my work and get feedback. And feedback could be in form of bug reports and suggestions. And Well, you may think, well, if that's your work, why aren't you making money? Now, you don't make money directly from that, but you make money from quality. If you have a good quality product, and if that product address needs and desires of your target users that are in the market, they in the end they'll pay you money for that work, and that's how it works. When I started, I didn't know much about business. I have to admit, but that's how it all started. Maybe a few people have learned about business before they started the business. Nowadays, I'm trying to help others to shift it. That will be another story, maybe for another podcast, which is the mentoring. Nowadays, I am a mentor. I can see very big projects coming in the future. They are not related specifically with PHP, but eventually they will be implemented in PHP in the background. So PHP is very powerful in the sense that it powers the background. Whatever code is running behind that site. Many sites are done in PHP. But back to the story of PHP classes. I looked around and I want to share my code in a way that every time I do an update to my code, the users that have tried my code before, they could be notified. I looked at the PHP Code Exchange and David Sklar, and well, this could be the site that I could share my code. I contacted him. Oh, this is great. Can I contribute something that to make the site better? To eventually let the users that try my code to be notified, maybe by email, so they can get the latest version. And they said, no. Okay, I respect that. So he didn't want to do that. That's okay. I think the site exists. I don't know what is going today, but since he did not want, I tried to do it myself. I started working on the basics of the site, which is having packages, and also having the possibility for people to register so they can be notified when a package is updated. So I implemented that like in 1 week, and later I saw another site. I'm not sure. I think it was Web Dev or something, and they had a nice thing. They not only have code of the author of the site, but also have code of others. Oh, let's learn from others because we can always learn from everybody. I'm learning from everybody every day, and that's a good thing that I also recommend to everybody. We don't know everything. If you know, you believe that you know everything, you are out of your mind. That's not realistic. What's realistic is the knowledge that you learn over time. It's a lot more than you know today. And if you keep learning every day, you will be better and better and better. Better in many aspects. Better ultimately as a human being. But you need always to focus on others because others are the ones that will tell you if your work is valuable. So I did the site and I didn't have a way to make money. It is only spending me money for the hosting, spending time a lot to develop new features, and I stayed there like for 2 years. And but I was working on other things. I worked on internet companies in the days that were called the dot com bubble. It was crazy. A lot of money to be wasted on sites that did not do much that was useful, or if they do it, but they were losing a lot of money. I worked in one of those companies. It was a long time. Those companies do not exist anymore. They bankrupt very quickly because they are not doing the right things. They were copying others, but copying in the wrong way. And I always say, if somebody goes to a hole, are you going to also jump in that hole? Beware of what the others are doing. Just because they are doing it, it doesn't mean it's right. It does mean that they are trying to do something useful, Sometimes it's useful, sometimes it's not. But I have learned a lot. The PHP classes was not very good in the beginning, which is just a repository, and I have to develop a lot of code. I have not checked these days, but last time that I checked, they had like 600,000 lines of code, half of which is generated. It's generated with a tool called meta storage, which does what people call object relational mapping. But I don't do it in the traditional way that frameworks do, like mapping objects. I use a meta language that generates code from a description. And every time I need to improve the generated code, I just improve the description and it works much faster. That's the internals. Anyway, I use that until today. I use a lot the PHP components that I share in PHP class as myself. I use them in the site. If they are useful for me, maybe they are useful for others. Of course, there are many ways to do the same thing, like form processing, newsletter delivery, everything. And that's why PHP classes exists. It provides a way for people to share code that probably already did the same thing, but with their own code. So that was the beginning. Things start growing. And in 2002, 2001, my son was born. And I thought about myself by then. I was in a job that it didn't work very well. I stayed there like for 4 months. It was not even PHP related. It's like management. I didn't like to be in the management then. Nowadays I'm in the management, but then I did not like that and did not do very well. They fired me, and it was fair. I was not doing a good job, and they even paid money. That part probably was not very fair because they paid money for not doing a good job. Okay, but there is a logic around that. And they paid money, that's fine. And that helped me to survive for over 1 year without making any revenue. Later, in around 2002 and 2003, I started joining ad networks. And those ad networks start generating revenue. But it's not any kind of revenue, it's recurring revenue. And this is the key, actually, one of the keys to success. If you want to succeed in business, you have to have as many sources of recurring revenue as possible. That could be advertising, could be subscriptions, could be hiring contracts. Whatever is recurring is something that repeats. Because you don't need money in this month only, you need money in the next month, and the following month, and the following month, and that's how you at least survive. But you don't just want to survive, you want to evolve. You want to develop new features, develop new code, develop new products and services to serve your community better. And that's the plan.
Can you feel it wrapped around your soul?